You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. The Options Insider Radio Network is sponsored by Fidelity Investments. At Fidelity, you'll always get a great value for your options trades. And with powerful investing tools that provide clear next steps, plus independent research and a wide range of investment types, we can help you make better trading decisions. Learn more about options trading with Fidelity at fidelity.com/options. Options trading entails significant risk and is not appropriate for all investors. Certain complex option strategies carry additional risk. Before trading options, contact Fidelity Investments by calling 800-544-5115 to receive a copy of the characteristics and risks of standardized options. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE SIPC. Bitcoin, Ether, Ripple, Litecoin, and more. Cryptocurrencies and other digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity. Provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments on everything from coins to tokens, futures, and even OTC options. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of cryptocurrencies and digital assets. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
All right, everybody. That music can mean only one thing. It is time once again for the Crypto Rundown, the program where we break down all the interesting activity on the crypto side of the fence. So some Bitcoin options, futures, spot, volatility, term structure, all that good stuff, as well as all what's going on in the world of altcoin as well. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-exciting The Options Insider Radio Network. Haven't done a Crypto Rundown in a couple of weeks. I was on vacation, dodging some hurricanes, and of course there was the market holiday last week, but now we're back. We're back to talk some crypto, and to help me do just that, old friend of the program back for a doubleheader here. It's John Pearlstone, one of the founders over there at CryptoPatterns.net. John, welcome back to the Crypto Rundown program.
Thank you, Mark. Great to be back. Hope you had a great vacation.
I did. When I wasn't prepping to get the heck out of the way of the hurricane, it was fun. But you know what else is fun? A little bit of the old Bitcoin breakdown.
It's time to explore the latest trading activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Bitcoin Breakdown. This is indeed the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading, what is going on in the world of Bitcoin. And you know, a lot has happened since the last time we all gathered here together on the old program. A lot of price action. Of course, since our last show, we saw a pretty dramatic sell-off almost immediately following our last show, which was back on actually the 19th of October. October. I'm getting ahead of myself. 19th of August. And then we saw that price high kind of peak right around a couple days after. August 20th we saw a high of 10,818 out there in the spot Bitcoin. Then we saw it pretty much turn around in the subsequent week and sell off shy of the 9,500 level, down to about 9,487 on the low, before rebounding once again, kind of that same old story, and rallying back up to where we were. Coming into showtime, we were looking still off from our last show, but not a ton. We had sold off approximately net about a little over 400 handles. Last show we were coming in, we were at about almost 10,700. And so coming into today's show, we were at about a 10,270, but it seems like just the imminent return of the crypto rundown has spooked the markets a little bit, at least in the crypto space, because we saw a bit of a sell-off over the last hour and change. We're now down to about 10,234 or so. So that puts us off well over 400 handles from our last show. But maybe, John, we'll start there because this is obviously your bread and butter, is where you guys kind of hang your hats throughout the week. It's been a couple of interesting weeks out there in Bitcoin land. We sold off hard, then we bounced right around that 9,500 level. So walk us through what's been lighting up your technicals and all your analysis over the past couple of weeks out here in Bitcoin land since the last time we chatted.
All right, and I will start where I left off in our last program, 9,500. 9,500 was that key number. It shows up on a number of different models and patterns we use.
You did say that, and it did pretty much hold for the most part, yeah.
I mean, 94.87, I know I was a little off. We called the 14,000 top by $23 too. We're dialed in.
Yeah, 13 handles off. You know, I'm going to hang up right now. That's it. That's so outside of our degree of accuracy we expect here.
Whatever the whales and manipulators are out there, they're playing it by numbers and not by volume and other measures. So we got our eyes glued on 9,500. It was a little bit of an eye-opener that we didn't head up to the upper side of that channel at 12,500. So we're watching that. But, you know, again, our feedback to our subscribers has been, well, it's in the middle of this thing. You're a trader, and you can rely on those boundaries to enter and exit, and you're way better off re-entering than living outside of them. You know, $13, you get what I'm saying. I mean, within reason, of course.
13 handles, clearly well outside the realm of reason here. But so you called that bounce. It sounds like you weren't too surprised when we saw us, maybe not to this extent, but rally pretty strongly off that 9,500 level.
We were expecting more. I mean, I made no secret at the end of the last show you had me on that, you know, we're bullish on Bitcoin through year end for a lot of reasons. We like to see this thing break out and get back up near 17.5. If it doesn't, I think that means something for it intermediate to longer term. So, you know, the pressure's a little bit on, and that's based on a number of historical models, patterns, et cetera. But, you know, the reality is you trade what's in front of you, and right now, while it's in this channel, nobody should be going all in on anything, long or short.
And, you know, last time you were on, we were chatting a little bit about, you know, what people had been terming in the broad financial media, the crypto flight to quality. We saw Bitcoin kind of behaving almost for a little while there like a flight to quality asset. The markets were very turbulent, the broad equity markets. People were fleeing those. They were selling off en masse. And it seemed like a lot of them maybe were turning to crypto. So that obviously brought up a lot of analysis. Is it really a flight to quality asset? How does that correlation hold up? I know that's been an interesting talking point of you guys over there at CryptoPatterns over the last few weeks as well. So what have you found in your analysis of Bitcoin versus gold? Is this really a flight to quality asset, or is there something else going on here?
I think it's an important thing to keep an eye on. I really, really do. I mean, as you said, there was quite a correlation between Bitcoin and gold during gold's recent run and the stock market's recent pullback. And all of a sudden, stock market's kind of stabilizing. Gold is starting to show some weakness, and Bitcoin, you know, hanging in its current range. And so therefore, I think it starts to raise the issue that Bitcoin may be setting up for its own path versus a flight to quality like gold. And it might prove if stocks want to dump again. The big thing is to watch how they behave against each other, as opposed to trying to predict which one's the real flight to quality, which one isn't. Because if gold investors want to make their money short, they may move it over to Bitcoin, and same with stocks. So those correlations have been really solid for several months, meaning gold up, Bitcoin up, stocks down. Well, let's see what the next move is, because everything's kind of consolidating at some very key levels. And the next breakout should be very instructive as to where we're heading from here.
Of course, the last time we chatted here on the show, there were also some other key developments going on in the broad macroeconomic space, not the least of which China had just devalued their currency again. And so there was speculation that some whales may be moving out of China into a currency that was beyond the reach of devaluation, at least from any central government. That seemed to be a lot of the speculation around what was driving a lot of that quote-unquote flight to quality last time. We'll see if that's holding up this time as well, or if there's other factors driving new players into this new crypto flight to quality here in the latter portion of 2019. Let's break down what's going on out here from a vol and just about everything else perspective as well. A lot of this data coming courtesy of our friends over there at SKU, SK3W. Check them out. If you're listening to a show like this, then you like yourself a little bit of analytics, volatility, and term structure and all that good stuff. They got you covered over there in SKU land. Let's look back at the vol first. We like to look at realized in particular. 1 month realized gives you a nice little snapshot of what's going on out there in Bitcoin land. And since our last show, Bitcoin vol has been, I think the technical term is annihilated. It's come in quite a bit. It was threatening 100 at our last show, right around a 95%. And coming into this show, it's well south of that. It's at about a 60, almost 61%. Remember, this is 30-day realized, so a little bit of a lagging frame of reference there, but it's still interesting to note just how much that vol has come in since our last show. And also since our last show, looking at the options volume, what's been lighting it up out there. Remember, we tend to use that 30 million as kind of a bit of a barometer. 30 million worth of trades in a particular day, that's a decent level, and beyond that is worthy of note. And there have been a few bright spots over the past few weeks above that 30 million level over there on Deribit. August 28th, it did put up about 46 million. August 29th, about 45.5 million. The 2nd of September, so going into the Labor Day holiday here, is actually the bright spot of the past few weeks. 72 million worth of options changing hands over there on Deribit. And the 5th, also pretty active, 62 million. The rest shy of that 30 million level benchmark that we like to use. And if you're wondering what's been trading out there, doing a quick scan over the past week, some of the big trades, what went up north of that 50 Bitcoin level. And the biggest trade actually from a total net premium collected, looks like perspective, was a 50 lot of the SEP 18,000 calls. So these are expiring on the 27th, so right towards the end of the month. They went up for, if you like your prices in fractions of Bitcoin, 0.0005 Bitcoin. 50 lot, which worked out to a total of 10,329 USD, which actually ties it with another trade that went up that same day, which looks like selling 96.8 of the SEP 9500 puts that expire on the 13th. So those are actually going out next week. And oddly enough, the same exact premium level. That's probably not a coincidence. Went up the same day. They went up, it looks like, about 5 minutes apart, which 5 minutes, not that long in the Bitcoin spectrum at the end of the day. So maybe a bit of a time strangle. 9,500, 18,000, 9,500. John, that certainly keys into that key level you were talking about before. If someone is indeed blasting away at these SEP 9,500 puts, it sounds like someone maybe has been reading your analysis, sir, and is drawing a nice little line in the sand, expecting Bitcoin to bounce at that level. What do you think?
I wouldn't be shocked at all if those folks are using that information. I get feedback like that all the time.
It's a good way to use it if you are buying in on those levels and you want to draw that line in the sand using puts. We talk about that a lot on our other programs. We were just talking about that on our option block program not too long ago, and some of the unusual activity we were noting out there. It certainly follows that we would see similar activity starting to set up out there in Bitcoin options. In terms of the term structure, how it's looking out there, again, this is implied now. Very different from our last show. Remember, for a while there, the term structure was pretty backward. It was very bit up in the front portion of the curve. As you got out towards December, things settled out a little bit. It's the opposite right now. That vol has come in quite a bit. So we're actually seeing that weekly SEP, going out 13th to the 20th, vol shy of the 70 handle, like we just mentioned. And then, of course, getting bid up a little bit, you get out to Dece. And actually, this goes out to March. You get up to pushing 80 or so out there. So it gets bid up a little bit, but still a little bit of an inversion of what we've seen out there of recent shows. Usually the bid has been to the forward portion of the curve, not the end of it. In terms of calls to puts, what's trading out there, overall volume, it's back to about 55%. That's a level we've seen before. On our last show is actually 66%, so it's coming a little bit. Probably some of those calls have come off the board, contributing to that as well. Remember that call to put peaked back on June 17th at about 73.5%. Looking at open interest out here, it's also up a little bit from our last show of the last couple of weeks, up to about 587 million. That's up from 543 million a few weeks ago. That's still shy of the record we saw back in around that June timeframe again of about 635 million. And I know, John, you guys and your team like to look at the futures and trade around with those. They're having a fairly light day. Coming into showtime, they were at about 10,000. 350. They come off a little bit, I'm sure, since then as well. They had put up about almost 4,000 contracts in that front contract, that SEP contract. Remember, that's a 5X contract, so about 20,000 coins or so going up out there. So a decent day, but not a huge numbers out there. John, is that still one of your instruments of choice for you and your team over there at CryptoPatterns, the futures? Or are you still spot guys? Where are you focusing most of your analysis and your trading these days?
Definitely the futures are in the mix. And that gold analysis we did, there was a spike in volume right before what I'll call divergence between gold and Bitcoin, where Bitcoin held its price well above 10,000 and gold started dropping. That peak day where it fell from, I want to say 1560 down towards 1500. So we get clues from there. It didn't, we also indicated until we see some real, key levels breaking, I'm not going to make any final conclusions, but definitely always watching the futures for confirmation of what's going on in the spot world. And as kind of a front runner in case they load up, it's usually a good time to be careful if you're, leaning to a short on there, and vice versa for Bitcoin. The futures are key.
A lot of people have been waiting with bated breath out here. We had the regulator on not too long ago, the crypto mom herself. Everyone's focused in, keying in on this Bitcoin ETF. Will we see it? Won't we see it? Is that going to make the Bitcoin and the crypto markets finally, I think as one of our listeners put it in, turn it to a big boy market? Well, it seems like some folks have gotten tired of waiting for the regulators to get their act together. We've got Van Eck and Solid X now putting together what is effectively, I guess you can call it a Bitcoin trust ETF. People are calling it an ETF. I'm not sure that technical definition fits, but it's definitely a trust out there, and it's going to function like an ETF out there. And this is effectively a way to do a bit of an end run around the current regulatory regime. Van Eck and Solid X using an SEC exemption that's going to allow it to issue shares in its Van Eck Solid X Bitcoin Trust. Again, you guys can't go out there mom and pop buying a 10 lot. You got to be on the institutional side, qualified institutional buyers only in this. And that's another way how they get around it. The SEC, very judicious on who can put out products to the retail side. On the institutional side, you have a little bit more wiggle room because, as Hester said on the show recently, they expect a little bit more sophistication, I think, from that level of the audience. According to the people issuing this, any shares bought will provide customers with access to a physically backed Bitcoin product that is tradable through traditional and prime brokerage accounts. Van Eck's pretty active, obviously, in the ETF space, and they're partnering with these Solid X folks here. This has been all the talk of the Bitcoin space over the past week or so. Some people think this is it. This is going to be, this is the canary in the coal mine for the ETF eventually coming our way. Others, as you might expect, saying it's not really, like I was just saying, it's not really a real ETF. It's effectively shares in a Bitcoin investment trust, which effectively trades OTC, and it's going to have a small handful of institutional players. So a lot of back and forth. I know, John, this has kind of been a big talking point on us here for the show for a long time. People keep writing in, asking about it. A lot of our guests have brought it up. It's seen very much as this watershed event. When are we going to get the ETF? When are we going to get the ATF? That's what everyone seems to have coalesced around that, is that's what the market needs to get to that next step. Are you in agreement with that? Do you think that's what this market needs to really evolve and take that next step? And if so, do you think this Bitcoin trust / ETF, do you think this is it, or do you think it's going to take something else?
Okay, so my response would be, thinking back years ago, you had Yugoslavia, then Greece, there's China now. There's always some story that people like to keep, bringing up to get a good market spike going or get a lot of hype going. And I could go through, since we've been active in the crypto community for over 3 years now, I could go through all the different stories that have led to huge, the forks, that whole era of forking everything, the era when Coinbase was adding coins, and that would lead to a gigantic, that's going to change everything. Liquidity is going to skyrocket. And in every case, it was a perfect selling opportunity at some point. So I come down on the fence exactly like that with this. It's just another, news is noise situation where we bring up another thing to make it look like crypto's more mature, and now it's time to go in, with both fists. But the reality is, that, and we talked about it in the last episode, I mean, there are things going on that do mean something. that aren't getting quite so much hype, like Fidelity's very active role in the crypto community. And they obviously see something here, and they're investing in, structure and institutional opportunities and what have you. So it's evolving, and I would take it seriously. But this particular thing, I don't put much stock in. As I say, it's out. Why isn't the market skyrocketed? We all know this is going to be the turning point. Where's the big volume? Where's people chasing to get in? And you haven't seen any indication of that whatsoever. I think when a real ETF that's traded on a public exchange would, step in, that would, certainly be a time to watch. And I'll finish the analysis by saying time of year is right. Time of year is right. This is where Bitcoin is set up to move up if it's going to move up. So if they want to make some sort of announcement like that and you see a follow through, you might play it as something real. I would certainly be looking to and be, our analysis would certainly say there's some upside if we can get real news that really is a broad market acceptance for crypto.
Well, you were talking about whales and manipulators early, John. And before we move out of the Bitcoin news, the other big news coming out to the last few sessions here is news of perhaps another whale springing to life. I encourage you, if you want to dig into it, check out the folks at CoinDesk did a pretty good write-up on this with visual graphics and all sorts of great breakdowns of exactly which wallet was firing up and how much they were putting up and where the funds were flowing to which accounts. It's pretty interesting stuff. Very, very visual, so I encourage you to check it out. But in a nutshell, we saw 94,505 Bitcoins changing hands back on September 5th. And this was a wallet that was first access for these trades late on September 5th, only involved in a total of 7 transactions, including one of them being this big, massive print. They went up when the price was around 10,569 or so, and this big move obviously drove the price a little bit, got it up all the way to almost 10,800, right around 10,790, and it was a total of but 1.02 billion worth of Bitcoin changing hands here. There's been a lot of speculation, as there always is whenever there's a big whale. Remember, we talked about a few weeks ago, there's speculation, some of those funds coming out of China moving into Bitcoin. Some folks thinking now this was a deposit into Bakkt's warehouse. Bakkt, of course, going to be coming online soon. They're testing some of their products, and some others saying this was perhaps a liquidation from a Ponzi scheme. All sorts, as there is whenever a crypto whale is involved, all sorts of speculation going on out there, which makes it fun. But John, I know you like to watch these big players and what levels they key in on. This guy, if he was keying in on a price level, it was an interesting one, 10,569, and he bid it up. So I'm guessing that he was buying, which is an interesting level to be coming in at buying level. I would have encouraged them to maybe check out your earlier analysis, sir, and maybe get in around 1,000 points lower. What do you say?
Sure, you can use 9,500, but it's hard to nail bottoms and tops. So if you got that kind of position and you believe, maybe you want to just get set. That'd be my take on it.
Bottoms and tops, that's easy, isn't it? That's child's play here.
I'd be busy on an island somewhere enjoying life if it was that simple. But
yeah,
we have some tools to help with it, but it's not an exact science.
That's good,
sure.
Right? It creates demand for your services. If everyone could do it on their own, you guys would be out of a job. Instead, we're going to keep on rolling right on into the altcoin universe.
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the altcoin universe.
All right, everybody, welcome to the altcoin universe. This is where we break down everything out there outside of Bitcoin, except for now when we talk about the market cap. Remember, market cap, take these total numbers with a grain of salt. I think the percentages are still fairly valid, but the overall market cap of Bitcoin, let's say for 183.03 billion right now, take those with a little bit of a grain of salt. Number 1, obviously Bitcoin. Number 2, ETH, about 19.25 billion. Number 3, XRP, having a rough time of it over the last few weeks, down to about 10.3 billion. Still number 3 though. Number 4, Bitcoin Cash, about almost 5.5 billion. Number 5, Litecoin, about 4.3 billion net overall. And of course, it has been interesting to watch. John, I know a big factor for you guys in your analysis, we talked about it a bit the last time you were on, is just the whole Bitcoin dominance factor, the sell-offs, the rallies. It has been led 99% of the time these days of late by Bitcoin. It kind of seems that where all the oxygen in the room is these days. Is that still your analysis? It's still pretty much Bitcoin is the belle of the ball and everything else is second fiddle? And what are you seeing out there from a Bitcoin dominance perspective right now?
Yeah, I don't think it can be argued. Bitcoin continues to run the show. But, our experience in all markets, in fact, is you find clues when you look for divergences. And you want to find anything that just doesn't seem in concert. I can't think of a better example of moving, with strong correlation than the large altcoin market. We talked about that at length last time. But I can share, since we're in the altcoin section, that we're seeing something right here, right now. I haven't even had a chance to update subscribers that I want to share because it'll give you a great example. It might turn into something. And even if it doesn't, it shows you the kind of stuff we look for that's very real and has led to huge profits and great position taking. So if you look at altcoin number 7, EOS, they have moved up and today are up, the last 24 hours up 4.6%. Nothing else is up, really anything. Bitcoin Cash is up 0.02. And it's like, you start asking yourself why EOS is spiking. And, if you watch the crypto market like we do every day, there's something spiking every day. But then you start looking for confirmation. And in this case, EOS has it. The volume has been increasing every single day. And it's been quality volume compared to prior periods. So that's kind of the divergence we're looking for to see a move. Maybe for EOS, or maybe that's a head fake, and then they want to take EOS to nothing, and they're going to pour it all back into Bitcoin. We don't know that part of it, but we like when people are buying with volume. EOS has a great story to it, and go through it if you want me to, Mark, when you're done with the analysis. But that's the interesting things we're looking for, the divergences, and we've seen a few with Litecoin. I mentioned that last time. It's kind of holding steady, but EOS is showing some real interesting things, and nothing else is showing much of anything. Bitcoin holding steady. So that gives you a feel. That's a read of the market for today. That would be an update for subscribers. It's like Bitcoin's still in range. Large altcoins, bouncing back nicely from a spike down. But EOS, essentially, with today's numbers, exploding higher. And the question is why?
Yeah, we don't get to EOS that often because it's right outside that top 5, right? It's number 6 right now, actually, with about 2.2% of the overall market cap out here. So yeah, it's still up there, and compared to a lot of other cryptos out there, it certainly is a very popular one out there. So interesting stuff there. Worth noting, I was just looking here, and it seems like we're talking about Bitcoin dominance. That number is just ticked under 70% for the first time in a while. Some people actually starting to analyze that and thinking maybe, given the fact over the last few sessions, in particular today, we've seen Bitcoin move a little bit farther south than some of the other altcoins. So maybe those folks out there who take umbrage at Bitcoin's dominance. I know there are a few of you out there you like to live in the altcoin universe. You don't want to dip your toes in Bitcoin. Maybe that some of those are getting excited about that, seeing that maybe that's a sign that dominance, hey, it's broken 70% to the downside. Maybe that's a beginning of the end. But for recent history here in the crypto marketplace, it's kind of been all Bitcoin all the time, as John was just alluding to. Coming into today's show, it's pretty much, it looks like down pretty much across the board for all those major cryptocurrencies we kind of just broke down. ETH off quite a bit, down about over 20 handles actually since our last show. Was at about a 180 coming into the start of the show. It's still at about 180 and a quarter right now. So that puts it off. We're at about actually exactly 20 handles. It was at 200 and a quarter on our last show. So puts it off exactly 20 handles from our last show. XRP, another one, Ripple. It's been beaten up of late, and it just shows no sign of being able to get out of its own way. Continues to show weakness, down another 2 cents even from our last show. Remember, for a long time, that 30 cents was seen as a very key pivotal support to the downside. No matter what happened, it wouldn't really break through that. Now we're well through that, and we continue to test new lows. Again, off. It was about 27 cents or so last show, and this show now about 26.9 or 27.9, I should say. So almost 28. And now we're at about 2 cents exactly shy of that. And again, doesn't seem like there's any signs of upside life in the near term here for good old Ripple. Litecoin, another one. It was one of the percentage-wise was the big winner for Q1 and Q2. A lot of talk, of course, the halving and everything drove a lot of interest in that. Since then, it's driven a lot of that to the downside. Once the halving event has come and gone, a lot of the love for Litecoin seems to have moved on as well. It's down over 7 handles from our last show, now back below that 70 at about a 69 and a third out there right now coming into showtime. So off quite a bit as well. And Bitcoin Cash also off. So pretty much all of them, all the top 5 feeling the heat out here this week. Down 16 handles from our last show. It was around the 306 level, just broke through that to the downside. Now about 305 3/4 out there right now. So, John, it sounds like for your subscribers and just in general of all these other altcoins that are floating around out there, it sounds like EOS is the one you guys have focused your analysis on the most?
Yeah, just in terms of, the technicals are looking strong compared to any other large altcoin. And in comparison, if you're on CoinMarketCap looking at the top 10 or wherever your site of choice is, we called Binance Coin, BNB. I said that's one to always watch, and we felt there was a lot of reasons that could go back down to $8, and it's moved from 34 down to 22. And EOS, we see that is a $10 or more crypto, in the reasonable near term. And so to see those sorts of moves start to happen are very much aligned with our long-term patterns. We'll see if they play out. And I stand behind the Litecoin call that I think that'll be a good stable return compared to the market over time too. So those are the ones we're seeing an edge to.
The last time you were on, you kind of said technicals. Once you get beyond the big boy, Bitcoin, you kind of gotta leave them at the door. They don't really fare as well anymore. Is that still your take here, or maybe some of these like EOS and others, are they starting to show some signs of life from a technical perspective?
I'm so glad you said that, because there's no history, there's no pattern, there's no justification to be long EOS if Bitcoin decides it wants to revisit 5,000. I hope that answers your question. It's like it will drive the market. But if it can stay stable, some of these things with good technicals might see better than average returns. And if it wants to go up, this has been the time of year where altcoins have outperformed Bitcoin. So it'll be a very interesting period to watch fourth quarter.
It will be. You know what else is interesting, John? At least I find it interesting. I think you will as well. Let's see what some of our listeners have on the brain. It's time to answer some of their crypto questions.
You've got questions about crypto. Who doesn't? It's time to find out the answers to your crypto questions.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the crypto questions segment. This is indeed the portion of the show where you guys take the reins, your questions, your comments, your pearls of wisdom you want to share with us and with our fellow listeners. You know how to find us at Options, most of the major social media platforms, theoptionsinsider.com, brand spanking new feedback form for you guys to use there via the live stream, via our mobile app. No shortage of ways to make your opinions known to us out here, your questions, your comments. Let's start with this one. Actually, John, it's a good thing you're on, because this is pretty much right up your alley here. This comes from Sigurd. Sounds like we have a Viking, a Norseman on the show with us today. He wants to know, is there one particular technical that works the best in Bitcoin? So, John, this kind of gets back to what we talked about on your last couple of appearances on the program. Yeah, you just reiterated it again. Outside of Bitcoin and the altcoin universe, not really a lot of technical analysis that you find worthy of merit out there. But in Bitcoin, it's such a dominant, such the big beast out there that you have said before, your some of your low-hanging fruit crypto, or I should say technical analysis, can be effective. So when you're out there cranking away, crunching the numbers on CryptoPatterns, are there a couple of techniques you find yourself going back to again and again because they seem to work the most for Bitcoin these days?
Yes. The last 18 months, the overbought, oversold indicators, there's a variety of them you can use on the futures. If they are telling you that we were a little overheated, you better not be arguing too strongly with them, because there's just been almost no examples where that hasn't been true. So volume has some, add on to the overall help in terms of technical analysis, but we really think that the futures, the way they read in terms of registering how the buying momentum and selling momentum is going and moving averages in that regard are really helpful too. So just those basic fundamental tools within Bitcoin futures have been extremely reliable. The other thing that we've used very successfully is really basic. And I'm not going to act like I'm an expert, but I mean, if you know anything about it, it has been extraordinarily helpful. Basic Elliott wave patterns, the Elliott wave techniques, the counts have been really helpful to confirm momentum or say, wait, we're about to see a turn the other way. Those are the two that we've been able to show the most value with.
It's fascinating how everything old is new again. You get a new asset class and all the old techniques and some of the low-hanging fruit things that maybe have been played out in other larger, more crowded spaces suddenly have a new life, have a new relevance. And you're not the first person to come on and mention this on the show, John. A lot of people come on from the technical side of the space, and they all kind of light up when I start talking technicals with them in the crypto space, because things that they had kind of maybe forgotten about or put away because they don't really work as well on cash equities or some of the other marketplaces that they're looking at, when they start applying them to crypto, all of a sudden they have a new life again. So if you're into technical analysis, sounds like maybe Sigurd of the Norse sagas, you definitely do. Yeah, then Elliot Wave and some of the other ones out there, some of these low-hanging fruit ones. It's fascinating to see. Again, everything old is new again, and we're seeing that play out in the crypto markets right now. All right, we got time here. Looks like we got time for, I think we could squeeze in one more here. Let's go. Frank 45. He wants to know, are you convinced of the long-term viability of Bitcoin versus traditional assets like equities? Well, that's a lot baked into that very simple question there, because how many times have we talked about it here on this program, right? There's a lot of the mechanics, the plumbing of what you expect from a traditional market like equities or options or futures that just still do not exist in the crypto space. Custody is still a huge issue, and they haven't found a meaningful way around that. Execution, getting the rate up to and the flow and the volume up to a level that is even a pale shadow of what we see in the equities or option space. We're still a long way from that. So there's a lot of the mechanics and the plumbing that needs to come in to really make this a long-term viable marketplace. But the good thing, so that waiting for those are some of the question marks I still have. I think if we can continue this volatility and we can continue this resurgence out there, I think that will continue to maintain the interest, which will allow some of these other steps, which a lot of the vendors we've had on and the institutional players are trying to build out, will maintain. As long as the interest is there, there will be a demand to create these functionalities in the Bitcoin space and in other crypto spaces, and we'll see them come to pass. But the good thing, and the thing that I've come to accept over the past couple of years, your long-term outlook on the viability of Bitcoin as an asset class is somewhat immaterial. And I say that because at the end of the day, what a lot of our audience and a lot of the professionals and in retail and all of the above really want is an asset class that has some volume and it has some volatility. And right now, the two Vs, you can pretty much get those out there in Bitcoin. Certainly in the spot, growing amount in the futures, still a bit by appointment on the options. I think we're all waiting for a listed option to kind of raise its head out from one of the exchanges. It looks like CME is going to be probably the leader in that race, but we'll see. And then once we have one of those out there, that's an easy, viable, easily accessible venue for a lot of the U.S. audience to access without having to use a VPN. I think that will feed it. Obviously, I think the ETP, whatever form it finally takes, when that comes online, that'll feed some volume as well. But right now, some volume and some volatility. You got both of those. And that's pretty much what makes a market. That's why Chicago, the professional scene here, the professional derivatives trading industry here that's been lying fallow for the last 5 or 10 years has just sprung to life and really embraced all things crypto because they have volume and they have volatility. Everything else will come with time if they have those other two things. John, what about you? What are your thoughts here on the long-term viability of Bitcoin? Or you're a technical guy. Maybe are you in the same realm? You don't really care. You just want to have some movement and some volatility to analyze at the end of the day.
Well, you said a lot of great stuff. I mean, traders love to trade. And so if they get the opportunity with these kind of price ranges and volatility, they're in. Even if it is trading air, as a lot of people I deal with call it. But I will add this. I think to me, as a more conservative fundamental investor in terms of my own funds, I have been to the conferences and met the developers in the Bay Area. I've seen the Southern California crypto community, and they have got a huge, obviously there's worldwide developers in this whole process, but the ones that made all the money on Internet 1.0 and 2.0, they're in crypto. And there are a few other things too, but there's massive commitment to the crypto development. So I think that means that you're betting with guys that are serious players, and I think that says a lot. That being said, I say it all the time, will Bitcoin be AOL? And all of a sudden there'll be a Google and Amazon that emerge from the remainders. I'm not going to be able to answer that today, but I certainly wouldn't bet against it. And you need to watch the charts carefully longer term for that. But we go back to point one, which is trade what you see. And right now, Bitcoin rules the day. Yes, I do believe there's a long-term viability for sure.
Well, it's funny, you mentioned those conferences and things, and we've had a similar effect here from doing this show for the better part of this past year and talking to people in the space even longer than that. And you get a lot of them on here who have really drunk the Kool-Aid, and you're right, it gets infectious. Their excitement is certainly contagious, and so a lot of that has spread to us here on the show. So we certainly do have hopeful optimism for the long-term viability. But again, in the near term, it can deliver a lot of what you need. And maybe some of the volume is still hard to access for some of you out there. But at the end of the day, it's growing and it's getting some of this institutional infrastructure that it needs to really bring it to the next level. Unfortunately, that music, John, means we've come to the end of another episode of the Crypto Rundown. Oh, what a fun one it was. We talked all of the fun analysis, volume, volatility, term structure, trades, all the good stuff going on in the world of Bitcoin options and futures. Some interesting technical movements and bounces in the underlying as well. And John, if our listeners are intrigued, they like your analysis in the Bitcoin or the altcoin or some of these technical levels, of they want to reach out to you directly about some of the indicators you guys use, maybe they want to subscribe for themselves, where should they go? What should they do, sir?
We would love for you to come over to CryptoPatterns.net. All one word, CryptoPatterns.net, and there's opportunities to subscribe, and love to have you come on board and help you all we can.
There you go, CryptoPatterns.net. You can also check out in the interim some of their posts going up over there at the newly revamped TheOptionsInsider.com. Glad you guys like the show. We hear from so many of you out there who are just enjoying this program in many different various aspects of it. We're sorry it was off for a couple of weeks, but we heard from you. It's back. And we love to hear from you. Keep those questions, those comments coming, and we'll see you back here next time for more of the Crypto Rundown.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. The Options Insider Radio Network is sponsored by Fidelity Investments. Fidelity's Option Trade Builder tool can help you confidently build an options trade in 3 simple steps. Just choose a strategy, select a contract, and then review the benefits and risks of the trade. Learn more about Option Trade Builder at fidelity.com/options. Options trading entails significant risk and is not appropriate for all investors. Certain complex option strategies carry additional risk. Before trading options, contact Fidelity Investments by calling 800-544-5115 to receive a copy of the characteristics and risks of standardized options. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE SIPC.